Rhydon was one of the strangest Pokemon in Generation 1. In spite of the fact that it's reportedly a rock ground type and it does come in with really high attack and really high defense while having low special and speed, its moveset kind of makes you wonder, was this actually supposed to be a normal type Pokemon? Consider, its level up learn set in Gen 1 has no rock or ground type moves, everything is normal, and the only other Pokemon that have this sort of moveset are normal type Pokemon. Add to that in spite of the fact that it's a rock ground type, it can surf for some reason, it can use Ice Beam and Blizzard, it has the ability to use Thunderbolt. Like, all of these things don't really make any sense until you consider that this moveset looks awfully similar to something that you would get with a Snorlax or like a Clefable in terms of TM compatibility. So in many ways, Rhydon more closely resembles the normal types of Gen 1 than the rock and ground types, which raises the question, how much better would it have been if it had been a normal type Pokemon? For starters, we get rid of our 4x weaknesses to grass and water, meaning that this Pokemon will actually be survivable in the late game, and it's going to get same type attack bonuses in tons and tons of moves. But will all of that be enough to make Rhydon a top tier Pokemon in Gen 1, or are its terrible special and speed still going to result in this Pokemon being really, really bad? Let's get into it and find out. So we are going to run the entire game with a Rhydon with the normal typing, and I'm just kind of interested to see, because in some spots I would expect that the fact that we are no longer resistant to normal and poison, for example, could have a big impact. But at the same time, we've got really good defense, so maybe it doesn't matter. And in the late game, usually a Rhydon gets completely destroyed by all of its type weaknesses. So Professor Oak, he's going to catch this Pokemon, of course. He's going to go ahead and just give it to us. He assumes, hey, I gave my grandson a normal type, I'll give you one too. So we've got our legendary Rhydon. We're running Rylax today. So just relax, guys, because this is going to be an easy fight. We're just going to stomp on the Eevee, and it's going to be an easy 2-hit KO. Even with stab, it's not a one-hitter there, in spite of the fact that we have a massive attack stat. We are running on 0 DVs, so that probably has some impact here. Still, even with max DVs in that sort of range, we're probably not one-shotting. Now, my biggest question here in the early game is, can we still beat Brock on minimum battles? A normal Rhydon gets through that fight perfectly fine because it resists normal type moves. Stomp plus Tail Whip is more than enough for getting through Brock's Pokemon, but here we no longer have that resistance to normal type moves, so we're going in at level 6 to this fight, and we might just not be survivable enough to set up against that Geodude. We're just gonna have to find out. So first up, I'm gonna try to go as far as I can on minimum battles with this Pokemon. We'll add on certain things if we think we need them, but overall, I think that this Pokemon's gonna do pretty well with its moveset as it is. So first, we've got to fight this bug catcher in Viridian Forest, where I think we simply stomp on him. We can see Tackle's doing like 3 damage per hit here, but really nothing to worry about, and we get to level 6. But now it's time for the real challenge, which is Brock, because if we can't get through him on minimum battles, at least in the early game, we're going to have to say that this Rhydon is significantly worse than a rock ground type Rhydon. Anyway, let's get into it and find out. So first up, we have the Geodude, and we are 1 point of speed slower than this Pokemon. So we're not going to be stomping to cause any flinches here. I'm going to go for the Tail Whip. Here now, once we do use Stomp after a single Tail Whip, we did 5 damage with that hit. But it's pretty clear that we are taking too much damage to get through this at this point. Now let's try this again, because there are a couple other strategies that we could go for. For example, now I can give 2 Tail Whips just to see what the ranges are. We get a critical hit turn 1, so we didn't really get to see any effect from it, and it still wasn't nearly enough to get through. So now let's just try to go all in on attack. If we don't use any Tail Whips, we do 3 damage per hit here. So this is a 10-hit KO on the Geodude. And of course, in that range, we're simply never going to get through this fight. So the best way that I can think to get through this fight on minimum battles would be to get a tackle miss from the Geodude. It's about a 1 in 20 chance for him to miss tackle on any given turn. Still, we would need 2 misses from the Geodude to ever get through this fight, so I think it's too unreasonable to try to get through at level 6. Now, I took 8 attempts just to see if I could get the luck, but we can already say pretty definitively that Rhydon is worse against Brock without the rock typing. But honestly, that mostly comes down to the fact that we're running on 0 DVs here. If we were running on higher DVs, we would probably at least speed tie or possibly outspeed that Geodude. And in fact, I've just come back with Max DVs to test this, and we can actually see that the DVs do matter. They make a big impact here. This Rhydon goes from being slower than the Geodude to being 1 point of speed faster than the Geodude. And what this means is that if we go back into this Brock fight here, we're going to be able to see that instead of being outsped by this Geodude, we're going to be able to stomp it first, and that creates the potential for flinches here. Plus we have 2 more HP, but with the flinches, we're not doing any additional damage, but we're going to be able to get through the Geodude pretty reliably just based on flinch luck. With that, we can get to level 7 where we get to the Onix. We're just kind of hoping for it to bide here so that we can then use a bunch of tail whips and knock it out with our attacking moves. This time we don't get it, but we can try a couple more times. So this time we do get a bide from the Onix, so we're just going to set up a bunch of our tail whips. And then let's just see, with 3 tail whips set up, we did 5 damage here, making this a 7-hit KO. When he bides again, that's really not what we wanted to see. We're going to take some pretty good damage here, but we get to set up the rest of our tail whips. And now with all of the tail whips on, we're doing like 8 damage per hit. If he had just waited 1 more turn to return damage, we would have knocked him out. So let's try this again, because this is all just going to come down to bide luck. So this time we've gotten all of the defense drops on the Onix, and we're still on 13 HP, so he's not going to knock us out within 1 hit. Here we got a crit. Obviously, we don't want to hit him while he's using Bide. He returns the damage, but we do manage to hit him the next turn, only for Bind to take us down. So this is still pretty darn luck-based, but I think it is possible to get through. This time, though, we've gotten him all the way down. It took 10 attempts, but we were actually able to beat Brock on minimum battles. So what that tells us is that while it is possible for a normal type Rhydon to beat Brock, it is dependent on DVs. You have to have a really good speed DV, and even then, it's not like it was consistent. 10 resets in order to get through that fight. So I'm going to restart my Rylax run here on 0 DVs, since I always do my full game runs on 0 DVs on this channel, and we are going to take some optional battles here because clearly this just isn't very reasonable. So here, after making very quick work of the rival, we're instead going to go fight a couple of optional battles here in order to get a better range against Brock. So the next damage rounding threshold is at level 8. And basically, if you don't know damage rounding thresholds, they're just spots where we do a little bit more damage based on the way that our level calculates into the damage formula. It might not make a big impact here, but we might end up doing like 6 damage as opposed to 5 damage against the Geodude if we just get a slightly higher level to go together with a higher attack stat. And I don't think this is going to take an incredible amount of grinding to get that extra level. We're simply going to take on 1 bug catcher in Viridian Forest, and I think that's enough to get us there. If not, we'll take 2 battles at most to get to that point. So in order to gain extra levels, we're going to fight the second bug catcher here in Viridian Forest. He has 2 Metapods and a Caterpie, and while these Metapods can use Harden, we've got plenty of PP here to easily get through them. We get to level 6 right there. We easily knock out the Caterpie with a critical hit, and now the second Metapod is just a 2-hit KO, and we get to level 7. Now, I'm not sure if this is enough XP to get to level 8. I'm going to go fight the required bug catcher, and if we don't get to level 8, we'll go back and fight another one of these bug catchers in Viridian Forest. So now we'll come and fight the required bug catcher, where he's still a 3-hit KO, and we don't quite level up there. So I'm going to go fight 1 more trainer here. This trainer has a Caterpie and a Metapod. Once again, he gives decent XP, and he should be very, very easy to take down. Here, just 2 stomps gets us through the Caterpie, gets us to level 8, and now we, once again on 0 DVs, are fast enough to outspeed the Geodude. The difference is we're at level 8, which means that the level that calculates into our damage against the Geodude will be slightly higher, and because we've gained a couple levels, we're also gonna theoretically take a little less damage. Let's see if that actually works out, though, by taking on Brock at level 8. So now against the Geodude, I'm going to go Tail Whip first. We've seen that that's pretty much required. He misses the first tackle, which is perfect for us, and now he's only doing 4 damage per hit against us, and we are doing still about 5 to 6 damage here against him. A critical hit then knocks the Geodude out. We're still on green health going to the Onix. It goes Screech turn 1 and misses. Then it goes Tackle. Screech again misses. Now Bind. Bind is kind of the worst because there's nothing we can do there. But as it uses Bide, I'm simply going to use a couple Tail Whips and then hit it the turn that it releases energy. It was the plan and I miscounted. But we can see we did really good damage there, nearly a third after 5 Tail Whips. So we're gonna have a better range here in this fight. The second attempt, we again get a turn 1 miss from the Geodude. Then we get a nice flinch. Sure, we're taking a couple tackles, but we're once again getting through on really good health to the Onix. This time Screech does hit us turn 1, but then it goes for Bide. And for some reason, I keep miscounting the number of turns there. It should have been a 3-turn Bide, but instead it was like a 4-turn? What? Here though, when he uses Bide the second time, we can simply knock him out because we've set up all the Tail Whips already. So we get through Brock in 2 attempts and get to level 10. So this fight's certainly not perfectly consistent going in at level 8, but you can get the luck to get it within reasonable attempts. And honestly, if I hadn't accidentally hit Brock while he was still gathering damage for Bide, once again, I must have miscounted the turns there, but this Pokemon gets through perfectly fine. 1 reset, 2 optional battles to get to this point, and we are on to the next stage of the game in 5 minutes and 22 seconds. That's 5 minutes and 22 seconds at 4 times speed, but including me giving live commentary here. So if you were optimizing this for a speed run, you would be much faster than that. So now we can simply go through the next part of the game where we've got Stomp, we've got Horn Attack. I don't think we're going to have any issues here against any of these Pokemon. I'm simply just going to spam Horn Attack. We're mostly slower than these opponents, so it's not like Stomp's Flinch Trance is really helping us that much here. But these Pokemon are pretty weak and we have really high defense, so we should get through pretty darn easily. And in fact, we can one-shot a lot of Pokemon here at level 11 just because of our super high attack stat, together with the fact that Stomp and Horn Attack are now same type moves. And now as we come to Mount Moon, we get our first chance to see some of the random moves that this Pokemon can learn. We get to learn Water Gun. Water Gun, of course, we'll just learn it over Fury Attack since Fury Attack is kind of random. And Water Gun is a nice move here because it's going to enable us to deal super effective damage against rock and ground type Pokemon. Of course, we can replace it later with Bubble Beam and other things, but it's a pretty decent move. I'm also going to grab Mega Punch, but I'm not going to learn it right now because I honestly think that we're going to be more consistent with Horn Attack and Stomp. So we would only ever really want to learn Mega Punch if we need a slightly stronger range on a particular opponent. So let's make our way straight to the Super Nerd at the end of this section and just see how our stab normal type moves work here. So whenever I'm faster, I will pretty much go for Stomp, unless it's disabled, of course, in which case we'll switch back to Horn Attack. But basically, if we can ever flinch opponents, that is going to be the better play. Unfortunately, we're just so slow that we don't often outspeed opponents. Still, it's no problem to get through the Super Nerd. We can get the Dome Fossil because it is the superior fossil in every possible way. And let's make our way to the Jesse and James fight. So of course, the big difference here is that we're not resistant to moves like Poison Sting, Wrap, or even, Bite from the Meowth. So we're going to take a lot more damage from these Pokemon. We even get a Leer here from Ekans, which is pretty bad. And Bite does really good damage, though we do one-shot the Meowth there. And now we are in a speed tie with this Coughing, so I am going to use Stomp, trying to get some flinches. And even though we didn't get any, we easily get through that Pokemon. So now we can make our way to Cerulean City with our kind of overpowered Rylax here. And I think that we're going to be pretty good in this section. I'm going to take on the rival first. I don't see any reason we would take on Misty with our low special. Our high defense is going to help a lot more against Rival 2's physical attacks. So let's just go ahead and get into this fight where we should be able to easily win, I think. The first Spearow comes out. Of course, we don't resist anything and we're slower, but we're just going to use Horn Attack. We almost get a one-hitter. It turns out to be a 2-hit KO. Sandshrew is out next. Now, initially, I would say this is a good spot for Water Gun, but I'm not sure it's actually the case. I mean, with Stab, Horn Attack and Stomp are actually stronger, plus we have a much higher attack stat than a special stat. Meanwhile, yes, the Sandshrew has higher defense than special, but I still think we're probably better off stomping this Pokemon. In fact, it's a 2-hit KO. We easily get through and get to level 15. Rattata comes out next. We're simply going to use a Horn Attack to knock it out. And Eevee, there's no point doing anything other than just going for Horn Attack. It's sand attacking us because it knows that we're going to do lots of damage. We nearly one-shot. We get the 2-hit KO. It's an easy victory against the rival. Now, it's obviously much easier when you have the rock typing because he just can't deal any even neutral damage to you, but it doesn't make a big impact here to just be a normal type, given our high defense and high attack in that battle. And now we can go across the Nugget Bridge, where basically all of these fights are the same. We're simply going to hold down auto A on Horn Attack most of the time. In fact, I'll probably move Stomp into the top slot just in case we are faster. We can go for a flinch, but I think we one-shot everything anyway. Now, of course, the Nidorans here do know the move Double Kick, but we're still just going to be weak to that move given the fact that we now are a normal type rather than a rock type. The bigger issue is that the Ekans can do a lot of damage with Wrap because we're just slower than that Pokemon. Now, of course, against the Mankey Boy here, there's no real difference between being a rock type and being a normal type. We're still weak against Low Kick if he uses it. It's going to do decent damage, but it's not super accurate, and he's not using Smart AI, so we easily get through in spite of a Low Kick and a Karate Chop there. Now, against the Onix here, this is pretty much the only place I think I'll use Water Gun, just because it's 4 times super effective and he has really low special, plus he resists our normal type moves. We easily get through in 2 hits. Now, the one place where our new typing is going to help is against the final Lass here. She has 2 Oddishes. Even if they were able to hit us with the move Absorb, we're not going to really take as much damage. Granted, they're all just 1-hit KOs anyway at our current level. So we can come in here and see Billy Boy, and he's going to go ahead and just transform back to a human being because he knows he's never going to be as cool as this Rhydon, and he's going to give us a ticket just because he's so impressed that we showed it to him. Got to put it in his PC system, if you know what I'm saying. So now let's go fight the innocent bystander and then take our first shot at Misty. And now I will learn Dig. Dig is no longer a same type move, but it is physical and it is 100 base power, so it does give us a decent option in some spots, especially against rock type Pokemon. We'd rather use this move if we can. But with that, let's go ahead and take our first shot at Misty's gym here. We're coming in first against the rando trainer, where we're just pretty much going to stomp the Goldeen down, I think. And yeah, it's a 1-hit KO. So now we're ready for Misty herself. Let's see if we can get through much easier with our normal type Rhydon. So first up is Staryu, and rather than being weak to Water Gun, we're just neutrally affected, so this Pokemon's going to randomize between its 2 moves. It might use Tackle, it might use Water Gun. We really want Tackle just because we have much higher defense. Here we managed to one-shot it with a single Stomp. Out next comes the Starmie. She goes Bubble Beam, and it still does massive damage. A critical hit one-shots us from nearly full health. So while we did get rid of our type weakness, the clear issue is that we just don't have much special to begin with. Here, even Staryu did 15 damage with a single Water Gun, and now the Starmie this time goes Tackle and follows with Bubble Beam. It does not knock us out, and then she goes for an X defense. So the second attempt, we do manage to beat Misty, 16 minutes, 38 seconds, and we've had 2 resets, 2 optional battles, and we've thrown on 2 TMs to this Pokemon. Still not doing too bad. So now let's make our way down to the SSN and of course Lieutenant Surge, where that's going to be another spot where we're not quite as good as a rock ground Rhydon. Of course, a rock ground Rhydon basically destroys Surge because it can't be affected by electric moves, is resistant to his normal type moves, so he basically just doesn't have anything to do against this Pokemon. Whereas here, we're actually gonna have to fight him straight up and see if we can manage to win. The Thunderbolt could be an issue. Still, we are reaching a point where we basically one-shot trainers with our stomps and whatnot, so I'm feeling pretty darn good. Now, we have taken optional battles already. This is not a minimum battles run, so I am going to take 2 battles here that are optional in the SSN. Basically, anytime that I add any optional battles, these are the 2 battles I'm going to take. I'm going to fight this guy so that I can get access to the move Body Slam, which I think is going to be super important for this one. And we will immediately slap that move on, and I'm just going to even forget Water Gun. I don't think we need this move. We've got Bubble Beam in the bag if we ever need a water type move, but Body Slam is clearly superior in every way. The second battle that I'm going to take is this gentleman right here, where he's got a dog and pony show going on, but we're just going to use Dig to one-shot both of of his Pokemon, and this will give us access to a second rare candy. Now, normally I might skip this rare candy, but given the fact that we are in the slow level up group, that extra level could have an impact in the late game. It's probably not relevant if you're running on max DVs, but here on 0 DVs, we're always going to be a little bit weaker, so that extra level could make a big difference. So with that, let's get into the Rival 3 fight, where I think there's a pretty clear strategy. We're just going to put Body Slam in the top slot and just hold Auto A on this move. And with Body Slam, everything except the Sandshrew is going to be a one-hit KO. And we easily destroy the Rivals team, and we can get access to Cut, and now it's on to Lieutenant Surge. So after digging through the trash, we're ready for the Trash Man himself. Let's see if we can win. So first up against this Raichu, I think our best play is to go Dig. This is by far and away the strongest move that we can use. I think it will one-shot if we just manage to hit, and it does not, because we do not have the same type attack bonus. He used an X-Speed turn 1 though, and he went for Mega Kick turn 2, so even without healing, we easily come in and defeat Lieutenant Surge on the first attempt. 22 minutes, 12 seconds, plus a lot of time digging in the trash in order to get through that one. But still, 2 resets, 4 optional battles now, and 3 TMs. We're running pretty darn well. That being said, we are significantly worse at this point than a normal Rhydon. A normal Rhydon could have done all of this on minimum battles, wouldn't even need Body Slam, would have one shot there against that Raichu with a single dig. So we're a little bit weaker, but it's from here that I think the game is actually going to get a lot easier with our normal type Rhydon. For starters, the next trainer that we have to fight is the Wrapping Lass. And if we don't outspeed her Pokemon, then they would be really, really tough for a Rhydon in a typical solo challenge. However, here, even if we are not faster, it's not like the grass type moves are going to do that much to us, so we should be able to get through this, but let's find out. So here, I'm simply going to spam Body Slam. We are already faster than the Oddish, so we easily knock it out. Turns out we're already faster than all of these Pokemon, so we're going to get a very, very easy victory here. And as long as we're faster than things, I think we're pretty much just going to spam Body Slam and win for this entire section. Here we were slower than this Lass's Bulbasaur, but it didn't matter, even though she Vine Whipped us, which normally would be absolutely terrible and did still decent damage. We easily tanked the move thanks to the fact that we don't have a 4x weakness. And just like that, we can get to the Rock Tunnel Hiker. He's going to want to go Boom, which is why we're simply going to Dig. And he can go Boom while we're underground. And Dig will one-shot the second Geodude. We'll simply Dig again on the final Graveler, and a critical hit one-shots it. So just like that, we easily get through that fight. And so thanks to our overwhelming power with this Pokemon, we easily defeat everything in the Rock Tunnel, and it's on to Celadon City. And now in the department store, we're simply going to buy a whole bunch of items here to get access to TMs. TMs that I don't need, I'm simply going to sell for money, because we might even go Hyper Beam at the end of this one, I'm not sure. So even Tri Attack is worth something to us here to sell for extra money. But of course, we can also get Ice Beam and Rock Slide, 2 moves that could be useful at key points in the run, so we'll simply keep those around. And with that, I'm simply going to go and take on Erika's gym. Now, typically in a Rhydon run, I would put off Erika as long as possible. In fact, I would often fight her just before Giovanni, just because her high power moves are often too much for a Rhydon. But here with the normal typing, I don't think we have anything to worry about. We're just going to Body Slam and I think get a pretty easy victory. Let's find out though if we're fast enough to get through these Pokemon. So first up, we've got the Tangela, which is faster than us. So we're going to Body Slam it. Mega Drain did massive damage here, but we did manage to paralyze the Pokemon with our first Body Slam. Misses Bind after that, so we easily get through. Out next is Weepinbell. It goes for Stun Spore and misses. So we get the paralysis with Body Slam and knock it out the next turn. We get to level 27. Now Gloom uses Sleep Powder and starts dropping acid, and there's really nothing that we can do against this. She just drops so much acid that we had to go down. So back for round 2, we once again paralyze the Tangela and easily knock it out. This time we get Stun Spored by the Weepinbell, but we knock it out with a critical hit body slam. We get to level 27 and the Gloom goes for Petal Dance. We are fully paralyzed and it knocks us out the next turn. This is so close though that I'm just going to try it one more time. This time instead we get Bind from the Tangela and then Constrict lowers our speed, and then it goes for the Mega Drain. We're just not getting the paralysis. We do get through to the Weepin' Bell again. We get Stun Spored and then Razor Leaf knocks us out. So this is clearly possible, not super consistent at this point though. So there is a better routing, of course. We can go into the Rocket Hideout where all of these rockets should be a joke. Let's just get this extra experience while we can, because then I think we'll be able to beat Erika pretty darn easily. So now time for Jesse and James, where I think the strategy is pretty simple. As long as we outspeed, I'm simply going to use Dig on the Coughing. Of course, Meowth, we're just going to body slam it and get a one-hitter, and then Ekans can get more of the Dig action. Easy, easy victory. Body Slam probably one-shots those Pokemon too. I'm just using Dig so that I can manage my PP better. Now it's time for Giovanni, where he leads off with an Onix. Dig is the only good move here. He goes for Rage and we just one-shot him after that. We are faster than the Rhyhorn, of course, but it's not a one-hitter with Dig, so I'm going to stomp it down after that. And now Persian, let's go for the Body Slam. Of course, we can't paralyze normal type Pokemon with this move, but it's still just a 2-hit KO. It was our strongest move. Made perfect sense to use it. And with that done, we can now dig out of here. We've gained a couple of levels, but I'm still going to go and fight against Rival 4 and do the whole Pokemon Tower section before I go back and take on Erika, just because I think this is going to be more consistent. So here against the Rival, he leads off with Fearow. I could have learned the move Rock Slide, I guess, in order to try to knock this one out easily, but really Body Slam's perfectly fine. It's going to be a 2-hit KO, but he potions because that's his AI. Next, against the Magnemite, we'll just use Dig, get an easy 1-hit KO. Shelter comes out. Body Slam is a 1-hitter. The Sandshrew also can't stand up to Body Slam. And Hey Eevee is sand attacking because it knows the Body Slam's coming. It's even growling at us. No, it knew that we were going to one-shot it after the Growler was a 2-hit KO, but we still managed to get through and get to level 29. So now let's just make our way up the tower where we have Dig. And even though it's not a same type move anymore, it's still going to be super effective against these Ghastlies. And I expect these to be easy 1-hit KOs as long as we don't like hit ourselves in confusion underground and get Nightshaded a bunch of times. Yeah, the confusion is the one thing we didn't want to see. Still, the second Ghastly goes for Nightshade, so we easily get through. They're just going to be 1-hit KOs, and that's going to be a sign of how things are going to go into late game. We should pretty easily get through Agatha in this one, just due to the fact that not only are we still going to have strong moves like Earthquake, we're also going to be immune to ghost type moves like Lick, so she can't paralyze us, which is going to help a lot in that Elite Four battle. And now we can get up to the Ghost Marowak, where we are not going to be weak to Bone Club, so I think this is going to be pretty easy. Let's just Body Slam a Ghost, and then Body Slam it again. Easy victory to get through, and we're up to Jesse and James. I'm going to go in once without even healing because I don't think we need to. Against the Meowth, it's going to be a Body Slam, easy 1-hit KO. Arbok is going to be faster. It uses Poison Sting though, and Dig should get the 1-hit KO. We get to level 30. Weezing also is faster than us, so we're going to have to take a Smog, but then we use Dig. It's not quite a 1-hitter. It would have been with a same type attack bonus, but still it doesn't make much of a difference. We easily get through that fight. So now we can save Mr. Fuji. He can give us a flute, and we don't have any room in our bag for the flute. Oh no. You know, we intentionally let our bag get full because we didn't want an old guy's flute, clearly, but you know, he insists, so we have to take it. But now with all of that done, being at a higher level, I think it's time to go back and try Erika again. I don't think we're gonna outspeed things, but still we should get some sort of advantage here given the fact that we just have more damage output and more HP as we go into this battle. So first up, again, we have Tangela. Mega Drain with a critical hit did like half of our health, but we did about half with a single Body Slam and we get through. Next is the Weepin' Bell though. It goes Razor Leaf, critical hit, one-shots us. So we are still suffering from the fact that we have a low special stat, but I think we can get this one to go. We just need better luck than that. But the critical hit Razor Leafs are simply too much for this Pokemon. So I don't know, I guess we're probably better off going somewhere else. In spite of the fact that we have a normal typing, we're still struggling against Erika. So what can we do? Well, I think the best first play is to go down to Koga's gym. At least against the psychic types down there, Yes, their psychic moves will do a lot of damage to us just because we have really low special, but at the same time, we should do a lot of damage to them with our stab body slam, so I think this is going to be the best play. It does really show just how bad the special stat of Rhydon is though, that it just repeatedly gets defeated by anything with a special move, in spite of the fact that it no longer has weaknesses to those moves. So let's just see if we can actually defeat these jugglers. Whenever we body slam here, it's basically going to be a one-hit KO on these Pokemon, and he's just juggling around his Drowsies, so we can easily one-shot these ones as we get to level 31, and Headbutt just doesn't do enough, so we easily win. Now it is on to the second of these jugglers, where he uses Confusion and it did massive damage there with his Drowsy. The Hypno takes about half damage from a body slam. He sends the Drowsy back out and Psychic destroys us. We just didn't have enough speed to outspeed these Pokemon, so we're gonna be in a kind of tough situation. Second attempt, we actually managed to knock out that first Drowsy, only to get confused by the Hypno, and it knocks us out this time instead. So we really want to see like Headbutt or Poison Gas here, not his really strong moves like Psychic and Confusion. Psychic nearly one-shot us there from the Drowsy, but fortunately it gets paralyzed, so we do knock it out the next turn. It took 3 attempts to get through that second juggler. This makes me really nervous for the late game, because while the normal Rhydon is also bad in the late game, we're not looking to have much better. So here I'm going to try Koga one time. I'm going to learn the move Rock Slide here because it's going to be super effective. I think it's basically going to be our best move. I'm going to forget Stomp because as we go further and further into the run, we're just not going to outspeed anything, so Stomp's not really giving an advantage. I think we still want Tail Whip because there might be a situation where we need a Tail Whip to get a certain range. So let's just see if we can manage to get through Koga with Rock Slide, keeping in mind it's not a same type move anymore, but it is super effective. So first attempt against Koga here, we're going to go Rock Slide. Even Psychic from a Venonat did a lot of damage though. A critical hit Rock Slide did knock out the first Venonat, however, so we do get through and get to level 32. Second Venonat confuses us, and we can see that Rock Slide is not enough to one-shot these Pokemon. Then we get Toxic, which is extra terrible, and we're just hitting ourselves in confusion over and over again until we finally go down. So this is kind of an iffy situation where, sure, Rock Slide is super effective, but we might be better off just going for the 2-hit KO with Body Slam if we have that range, and trying to get some paralysis on these Pokemon. Still, the Psychics do way too much damage, and if we're getting knocked out by these Venonats, we're definitely getting knocked out by the final Venomoth. So I think we have to give up here. And that is kind of disappointing because I expected us to at least be able to get through Pokemon just using our strong physical attacking stats. But it turns out that here we're just suffering so much from our low special and speed that there's really no advantage to having the normal type at this point, it seems. But before we take any more optional battles, I'm going to start by going to Silphco just because we can fight one required trainer here and we can try our hand at the rival. Maybe we get enough of an advantage here that we can somehow progress in the game without optional battles. So let's just try this one time against the rival and see how he goes. So of course he leads off with Sand Slash. We're going to body slam this Pokemon. He poisons us turn 1. We were really hoping to get paralysis on this one. Slash does massive damage here. Out next comes the Cloyster. It goes for Withdraw as we go for the Rock Slide. We're not as worried about getting hit by Clamp at least, but still, we're gonna take too much damage from the poison, and this first attempt is a no-go. I like to give these fights just a couple attempts though, just to see if we get slightly better luck, how things will go. This time we get a Sand attack, in fact 2 of them, but we managed to hit all the body slams and easily get through that first Sand Slash. Here, I'm actually going to body slam on the Cloyster just to see if we can get paralysis. Aurora Beam did massive damage though, and we are just hitting ourselves in confusion so many times. Finally, we do paralyze it, and Rock Slide takes it down. Out next is the Magneton though, and since we're normal type, we can be hit by Thunder Shock, so we go down. So I think this fight would take way too much luck to get through at this point, So we have to figure out what to do. And the most efficient level grinding at this point is actually to fight trainers inside of Koga's gym. They just give really good XP. We shouldn't be too bad against these Pokemon, so let's just try a couple of them and see if we get to a slightly higher level, can we ever manage to get a better range on these opponents? Because while we do have 6 rare candies in the bag, I think we're going to need those in the late game just because of our really bad special. But before we go too hard on optional battles, I did take one inside of Koga's gym. I think we should actually try to get access to Hyper Beam. Hyper Beam, of course, will give us a pretty big advantage in this section because it is a same type move, meaning that, for example, against Erika, it might turn some of her Pokemon into one-hit KOs, since it's nearly double the power of our Body Slam. Now, there are fortunately enough items in this section of the game that we can naturally get to the point where we can purchase Hyper Beam. We don't have to do too much crazy routing, we just have to pick up all the items in the Safari Zone, in the Rocket Hideout, and of course, in Silphco. So really, it's just a massive time investment to get all the coins that you need, because you have to buy them 50 at a time in Gen 1. So just like that, we will get access to the Hyper Beam TM, and I think this move could be really useful here. Now, I'm going to learn Hyper Beam over Rock Slide for 2 reasons. Number 1, Rock Slide, even when it's super effective, is only going to be 150 effective base power, whereas Hyper Beam will be stronger than that because it's the same type move, and because it's more accurate. So I actually think there's never a situation where we would ever really want to use Rock Slide from this point onward. We're always going to have like Earthquake or Body Slam being basically better options, with Hyper Beam being our finisher. So now with Hyper Beam in tow, let's just try Erika again with our Rhydon and just see if we can somehow get through this fight with our much higher damage output. So this time against the Tangela, I'm going to go for Hyper Beam here, as it does use a Vine Whip on us. We just missed the range to get a one-hit KO. And as it used Bind, we took a bunch of damage again. We get to level 33 here, and we get put to sleep by the Weepin' Bell, which starts dropping acid, so we're pretty clearly losing this attempt. Let's see if we can get slightly better luck here. Now that we know that Hyper Beam will not be a one-hit KO, I'm going to use Body Slam still the first turn on the Tangela, and we'll just Body Slam a second turn to knock it out. That is the most defensive Pokemon here though, so let's see if Hyper Beam one-shots the Weepin' Bell. It does. We get to Gloom, and we outspeed, and we Hyper Beam it down. So it took about an hour, 59 minutes and 41 seconds to beat Erika, but we did manage to get the 4th gym badge, and we've taken 5 optional battles now. Like I said, I took 1 inside of Koga's gym, and we have added 5 TMs. We've got 15 resets, not looking super great, but hey, it is a minor improvement. So now my next question is, does this move do enough damage against Koga's Venonats that we can now get through them maybe with a one-hit KO on each Pokemon? Keep in mind, Rock Slide was only effectively 150 power because it's not a same type move, whereas Hyper Beam is effectively 225 power. So it should be stronger here. The question is it strong enough? So first Venonat comes out, we're going to go Hyper Beam. It used Sleep Powder on us. That's not what we wanted to see. It's 1 in 4 to use that move, and it seems to just want to use that this time. It is using Tackle against us, which is I guess okay, but it used a whole bunch of X attacks. Still, we can see Hyper Beam will one-shot that Pokemon. We're gonna get knocked out on this one because of our bad luck, but if we can avoid getting that Sleep Powder, we might be able to sweep the 3 Venonats and get to Venomoth. This time we get Tackle instead and one-shot there. The second Venonat confuses us, but we use Hyper Beam and just miss the one-hit range. We get hit with Toxic there, which is not what we wanted to see, but here we can Body Slam the second Venonat, Body Slam the third Venonat, and we're at least getting to the Venomoth on this attempt. It goes Double Team, I go Hyper Beam. We got pretty darn close to taking it down. It's gonna be a 2-hit KO there, so probably Body Slam into Hyper Beam will be enough to knock that Venomoth out. 2 attempts later, we once again knock out the first Venonat. We get Psybeam from the second Venonat here, and we actually do get the one-hit range there. We get Double Edge from the third Venonat and get the one-hit range. So now I'm going to go Body Slam on the Venomoth. If it doesn't hit us with Psychic, I think we have a chance here. Goes Double Team, so we do manage to hit the Body Slam. Double Teams again, so Hyper Beam missed. And then Psychic takes us down. The Double Team spam is the issue here, but but like any self-respecting player, I'm not going to accept that from this Pokemon. Still, if he goes Psychic, we're basically gonna lose. It's basically when we're there already with Toxic, it's a 1 in 3 chance that he uses Psychic. If we get there without Toxic, it's a 1 in 4 chance that he uses that move. This time we get Leech Life, and we manage to hit the Body Slam. He X attacks the next turn, and Hyper Beam finishes it. So 6 attempts to get through Koga there, but we did manage to win in 1 hour, 3 minutes, and 40 seconds. Is this consistent? No, but it does help us a little bit. We now have a badge boost in our speed, and we can actually go take on Blaine if we want to, rather than going and taking on the rival. Still, it took 20 resets up to this point to get here, 5 optional battles and 5 TMs, so it's definitely not perfect, but we have kind of made progress. Kind of. It is kind of sad that while Rhydon ranks 13th out of all 151 Pokemon in terms of base stats, it simply just cannot survive against anything that uses a special move. So now I'm going to go to Cinnabar Island and go through the Pokemon Mansion. We can pick up things like Blizzard down here, though I'm not going to use Blizzard strats too soon. We might save that for Giovanni. I think it will be a pretty good move to use when we get to Lance at the end of the game, just because of the fact that maybe then the 4 times effectiveness of that move overcomes our low special stat. Not exactly sure. I haven't calculated this all out. It could be a situation where we always just want to use physical moves anyway, but I'll have that as an option just in case. Here I am going to go ahead and try Blaine one time just to see how he goes, because we have a super effective move in Dig. Though keep in mind, without Stab, Hyper Beam is technically our strongest move for this entire run. Against anything that's not 4 times weak to a move, we'd always be better off just using Hyper Beam, as long as it can manage the KO, and we're generally going to use Body Slam in order to try to get those ranges. Of course, if we had Tombstoner, this would be an easy 1-hit KO on everything, but it's not going to happen here, so let's try our hand against Blaney Boy. So against the Ninetales, I'm going to go Body Slam here. I think this is the better play. We get the paralysis even. Now we can go Dig and easily knock that Pokemon out. Rapidash is out next. Once again, it's way faster than us, and Takedown did tons of damage with a crit, and we get knocked out by the Fire Spin on the next turn. Now, without the critical hit, we might have gotten through better there, so I'm going to try this one again. Obviously, Fire-type moves are no longer resisted by us, so we have to be a little bit worried about that situation, and we also don't like this Confuse Ray spam from this first Ninetales. But what we're really banking on is just getting some Body Slam paralysis, and really we can probably go Body Slam into Hyper Beam to knock the first Pokemon out. Rapidash isn't that tanky, though we are confused here, so we're taking tons of damage from ourselves, meaning that we're going to go down on the 3rd attempt here as well. On the next attempt, we do get back to the Rapidash, though, with decent health, only to be Fire Spun from green health all the way down to yellow health, and then get a flinch from Stomp, and we get knocked out just like that. And a Flamethrower from the Ninetales already just one-shots us from full HP, so I don't think there's anything to do. I think we just have to try a different route. It's too bad, because I really would like to get the badge boost in special from Blaine, but it just isn't in the cards for this Pokemon. So let's go back and try rival number 5 again instead with Hyper Beam. Let's see if this makes any difference before we start grinding some levels. So the key here that I want to see is, how do we do against the Sand Slash? I'm going to Body Slam it turn 1 and try to go the Hyper Beam turn 2. It does get the range to knock that Pokemon out. Out next against the Cloyster, I'm going Body Slam until we get a paralysis here. Unfortunately, it hits Clamp, and that's all she wrote. Still, if we can manage to get through the Cloyster with decent health, we may be able to just use Dig from there on out in order to knock basically everything out. It doesn't look like this is a Body Slam into Hyper Beam range though, so we're going to have to at least get a paralysis on the Cloyster, and then I think at least one turn where it doesn't move. Here we did get the paralysis this time. I'm going to Body Slam again, and it looks to be a 3-hitter with Body Slam, so we'll simply knock it out like that. Against the Magneton, we survived the Thunder Shock only to be paralyzed, but I'm going to use Dig, and it doesn't quite one-shot. So yeah, this is not looking great. So I just don't think that that fight is happening at this point, so we need to go and fight some additional battles in order to gain more levels. Now, the best XP at this point is available from some of these rando trainers between Pallet Town and Cinnabar Island. So I'm just going to run around here and try to fight some of these guys. Fortunately, we are not weak against water anymore, so we can get through a lot of these trainers pretty darn easily. That being said, even Bubble did enough damage that it was able to knock us out. So after a few more optional battles, we actually have gotten to level 38, which is another damage rounding threshold. So I'm going to go back and try the rival again at this point. Let's just see if he gets slightly better ranges now that we've gained a few levels. So at this point, after a sand attack, which did give us a badge boost in attack, we got a 2-hit range with body slam on the first sand slash. Now Cloyster goes for clamp, which is just the worst possible situation, especially when it's a 5-hitter and it clamps again. We just never got a chance to even see the range. This time we get a critical hit body slam on the Cloyster though, and it just goes withdraw, so we knock it out the next turn. And now let's see what Dig does on Magneton. We do get the 1-hit range now. We get to level 39 as Kadabra comes out. Psybeam does big damage, but we knock it out in 1 hit. And finally we get Bite from the Flareon, so we use Dig, and it is a 1-hit KO. So at level 39, we were finally able to beat the rival there. It didn't take a ton of grinding to do it, but it's definitely not super consistent by any means either. Still, with that done, we should be able to take on Jesse and James and Giovanni and get some really easy XP. And then I think we're going to go take on Sabrina. I think she's going to be easier than taking on Blaine. And at level 40, we could learn Fury Attack. We're not going to learn Fury Attack. The level up moveset of this Pokemon makes literally no sense. It has Leer and Tail Whip on its level up learn set, and then like Fury Attack at level 40. There's a lot of decisions about this Pokemon that really just were not well thought out by the developers. So here, let's take on Giovanni, where against his Nidorino, I'm just going to use Dig. He guards specs. We easily get through that Pokemon. I'm going to try a Hyper Beam on this Persian. We get the 1-hit KO. Out next is the Rhyhorn. We are faster. We're just going to use Dig here, and I'm not sure what kind of range we're going to get on the Nidoqueen, but I'm going to body slam it as it goes for double kick. Doesn't do that much damage. And I think a second body slam will do the job, so we easily get through that fight. So now there's one thing that we can upgrade, of course, that we've gotten through this. We'll go get a rare candy, but we'll also get access to the Earthquake TM. It will just be slightly better than Dig because of the fact that it doesn't have that turn underground. So if we're paralyzed or if we're confused, we don't have that extra turn where we might not move or hit ourselves in confusion, breaking up the move. So I'm just going to learn that over Dig, and let's go ahead and get out of here. So now I'm going to go fight Sabrina because in Pokemon Yellow, they actually took away Sabrina's Smart AI. It's to prevent infinite battles against her Alakazam with Psychic types. So without Smart AI, I think we're going to get through this, but let's find out. So out first is the Abra, and due to our low speed, we're almost guaranteed to get flashed here, but I'm still going to go Body Slam. She instead X defense. That's kind of disappointing, and we managed to still get a 1-hit KO with Body Slam. I'm going to stick with Body Slam on Kadabra and get the easy 1-hitter. We get to level 41 as Alakazam comes out and also goes Psywave on us. And then she X defense, giving us the easy victory on the first attempt. 1 hour, 19 minutes, and 46 seconds to get through that gym, and now up to 32 resets, 8 optional battles, and 6 TMs in this run. So we're not doing great, but we have another gym badge, and we now only have the option to fight against Blaine if we're going to stick on anything even close to minimum battles. But I think that ship has already sailed. We are probably just going for tons and tons of optional battles for the rest of this run. Still, I'm going to minimize them as much as I can. Once we get to the Elite Four, that is where we will think about using rare candies, because anything before that, it's just adding extra grinding at the end of the game. We don't really want to do that. So let's try Blaney Boy again. Let's just see if we can get the range now. With Earthquake not requiring us to dig underground, it might be a little bit better. So first up, we've got the Ninetales. I'm going to see what Earthquake does here. Earthquake is not quite a one-hitter, so we basically want to body slam into Earthquake here. A critical hit Flamethrower knocks us out. So let's try this one again, because one way or another, we're going to need a little more power than Earthquake provides. Here we survive a non-crit Flamethrower, but then it's just a 2-hitter with Body Slam, so I'll just do that. We get growled by the Rapidash, but we managed to paralyze it. I'm going to try Earthquake just to see. It does not get the range, but he's super potions, so we knock him out on the next turn. Out next comes the Arcanine. This can go Flamethrower, Fire Blast, Reflect, or Takedown. We'd really like Takedown or Reflect. He goes Reflect, we paralyze him, and now I'm going to go for the Earthquake and just see how much damage we do. Of course, the Reflect does increase his defense dramatically, meaning that we just didn't do nearly enough damage there. A critical hit could have gotten us through, but remember, crit rates are based on speed in Gen 1, specifically your base speed stat, which is so bad for Rhydon that we almost never get crits in these runs. This time we are getting a better range against the first two Pokemon though, so we do manage to get through there. A miss from Fire Blast would be like perfect. We just got the Fire Blast, but it didn't miss. This time, however, we get takedown from the Arcanine and we do crit, only for it to take down again and knock us out. That was as close as we've gotten. It had 55 HP remaining. So it's pretty clear that this just isn't going to happen, and we're just going to have to grind more levels. Now, because we are getting through two of the Pokemon there pretty reliably, I think the best strategy is actually to just blackout grind. We don't really need money for too much in the rest of the game. I mean, I guess for full restores at the end of the game, but we should just be able to buy a bunch of items, and that way we can at least keep some of our money. And apologies, guys, I had to actually stop once and come back in the middle of this due to a crying baby. One piece of advice: if you value sound isolation, don't live in a small Japanese apartment. Apparently, soundproofing doesn't exist here. But here we will simply grab a bunch of items so that we can keep our money, and we're going to start blackout grinding against Blaine. I think this is the best way to go. But it also makes me think we seem like we're pretty close to being able to get through this fight, and it might just be the fact that we're on 0 DVs that this is really hard. In fact, a Max DVs Rhydon with the normal typing might be able to get through this fight much easier without all these resets and optional battles. So I think I'm going to come back and do a second run of this Pokemon just to see if DVs make a massive difference. But for now, let's just grind out this fight as many times as we can. We're basically just going to spam Earthquake until we either knock all of his Pokemon out or we get knocked out ourselves so that we can just gather more XP. This time we managed to get through to the Arcanine on green health. He goes Reflect, and we really just need a critical hit. He goes Reflect again and again. Finally, he flamethrowers though, and that is the end of us. So we'll just take that XP and go back and fight him again. So at level 43, we've actually reached a point where Hyper Beam can one-shot the very first Ninetales. It nearly one-shot here on the Rapidash. We get growled, but we'll just knock it out. Out comes the Arcanine though, and Fire Blast nearly one-shots us. We're gonna go down to the burn before we can ever get through this one. So that basically tells me that if we just had slightly higher stats, we probably would have already been one-shotting these Pokemon. So really, the DVs might make a massive difference in the second run. And this time we get a critical hit Earthquake on the final Arcanine, even after it used Reflect and Takedown on us, and we managed to get through at level 44. Level 45 is probably going to be more consistent than that, but it is possible to ultimately beat Blaine without that many additional battles. And now we're 30-10 to get through that fight. We're up to 37 resets and 16 optional battles. There were a couple where I actually got knocked out by the Ninetales, and they did count on as optional battles there. So it's probably closer to 14 optional battles that we actually won and got XP from at this point. And we've used 6 TMs, but really not that bad. We get access to Fire Blast now if we ever want it. Don't think we're going to use it given our low special stat, but we can progress in the game to the final gym leader, Giovanni. And usually Giovanni is the point where a typical Rhydon, the rock ground type, completely fails. This is the point that I found where I simply could not progress on minimum battles without going completely broken strategies. We're talking substitute with double team, because that was the only way to get through this entire team. They spam Earthquake the entire way against a Rhydon, and even though we have really high defense, we just can't stand up to that much Earthquake madness as we come in here. In this case, however, the Nidos are going to want to use double kick against us, which is quite a bit weaker given it's not a same type move, and we're not weak to Earthquake, so I think his Pokemon are pretty much just going to randomize against us. We of course know Earthquake, which is super effective here, but without Stab, we are not one-shotting even this Rhyhorn. So we're going to have to hope that we can get good enough ranges with Hyper Beam, I think. So first things first, we've got to take down this Doug trio. I think Hyper Beam is the play. It goes to Earthquake and it did decent damage, but we knocked it out. Out next is the Persian with a Slash. We are going to one-shot that Pokemon as well, though. We get to level 46. Only to get double kicked by the Nidoqueen, and of course we're not going to one-shot that Pokemon. And Earthquake isn't really going to be better here. It's not a same type move, so it's technically weaker, so we might be going for some Body Slam strats. Regardless, I think we stick with Hyper Beam on the first two Pokemon just to get the one-hit KOs, but now let's see if we can paralyze the Nidoqueen. Sure enough, we do get paralysis. We can knock it out just after that. Nidoking is next. We were kind of hoping that he would guard spec on the Nidos. It's a reasonable chance with Giovanni. He's just kind of random. So if he just guard specs, I think we might have a shot here. So this time he did guard spec on the Nidoqueen. We knock it out the second turn after it hit us though. We survive against the Nidoking but do not get the paralysis, and he hits us the next turn. This time we got a sand attack, but we do manage to get to the Nidoking on better health, only to not be able to hit any moves. So once again, this is a spot where it's just pretty clear that we're not getting through this fight. We simply don't have enough defense and HP to get through all of those Pokemon. So we are going to once again deposit all of our other Pokemon and do the blackout grind against Giovanni. So this time we've taken a Screech, but we're all the way to Nidoking at level 47 on full health. We get a very nice first turn Body Slam as he used a guard spec. Now he will double kick, but we're going to be on about half of our health remaining as we go to the final Rhydon. Now here against this Pokemon, I think we just go Earthquake and he goes Rock Slide and knocks us out. At level 48, we get back here again. I'm going to Tail Whip him once just to see what kind of damage we do with Earthquake after that. We did over half. He goes for Horn Drill. So at level 48, we do manage to beat Giovanni. Now, I was thinking about adding on Surf there because if we use that on Giovanni's Rhydon, even with our low special stat, it would do massive damage. The reason I avoided that is because I don't think it's going to really be helpful in the next few fights. So I think we're better off to just stay with our moveset as is. I think the only case we'd ever want to use a special move like Blizzard or Surf would basically be if it's 4 times super effective. Outside of that, it just doesn't really make sense on our Pokemon given our low special stat. Still, we managed to get through an hour 39:10. We are on to the league with our normal Rhydon. And I think the big takeaway at this point is that at least through the 8 gyms, we'll have to see again when we get to the Elite Four, but through these 8 gyms, arguably a normal Rhydon is worse than a rock ground Rhydon. It's a little bit better there on Giovanni, but overall it's been a pretty tough sledding up to this point. I'm not sure if this Pokemon's actually worth it, but here we are against rival number 3. I'm going to Body Slam against his Sand Slash, get the nice paralysis. We'll just Hyper Beam it down from there. Out next is Execute. We're just gonna Hyper Beam that Pokemon. Next, we've got Cloyster, so let's just go for the Body Slam. I think Hyper Beam will get it. It went with Draw. That is the move we did not want to see. That actually stopped us from getting the 2-hitter there. We will Earthquake the Magneton, of course, because it cannot do anything against that. We just need to Body Slam Kadabra. Actually, he goes for Reflect, but then he Potions, so didn't really matter. Not a big deal. Finally, we want to Earthquake this final Flareon. That's an easy one-hit KO, and we get through the rival on the first attempt. Now, we're not going to have a lot of super great moves as we go into this last section, but we're keeping Earthquake specifically for Agatha. And of course, it helps with the Magneton and the Flareon, so we'll probably carry that to the end of the game. So the real question is just, do we learn any other moves as we go through the Elite Four? I've carried Leer this entire time. We probably need to get rid of that move. I expect that I'm going to learn something like Thunderbolt. I expect that we will learn Blizzard in time for Lance. But honestly, it's kind of a question of what else do we want to learn in this section of the game. I mean, like, there aren't really any better physical moves than what we're running already. And since we're basically a physical attacker, this is the set that we would want to use. And especially because our special is so low, I don't think a move like Thunderbolt really does that much for us against Lorelei. We would basically be running this set anyway against Bruno and Agatha. So it's basically Lance where we'll add on Blizzard and maybe Thunderbolt. but otherwise we're just kind of running with our set as it is. Now I am going to go to the power plant to get access to one more rare candy, just because I honestly think we might need it in this run, because here at the Elite Four, I think it's finally time to think about using rare candies in order to get through troubles rather than just fighting extra battles to level up. Like, we've taken 20 optional battles up to this point. Again, some of those we got knocked out without gaining any XP because we were just trying to grind against Blaine and Giovanni, but for the most part, we probably won at least 17 of those battles in order to get extra XP in this run so far. You could definitely have made up all of those battles with rare candies, but like I said, I just wanted to keep them for the Elite Four because we just don't know how we're going to perform here. So with that, let's sell the things that we don't need and actually get access to a few full restores, because we're definitely going to want to be able to heal up here as we go through the Elite Four without having to worry about status. I will use up all of my money basically so that if we do blackout grind, it's not going to be that big of a deal. But let's get into this. Let's see if we can manage to win. So first up is Lorelei, where you could say, like, it would be nice to have a rock slide here. You know, it would be 150 effective base power, but we can see Hyper Beam is stronger than that. So there would be really no reason to have that move. And here, when she rests with the Dugong, it's basically fine. We're just going to recharge and then knock her out after that. We get to level 50 right there. Here we can just start going body slam on the Cloister. Ice Beam did massive damage. And then we get confused and hit ourselves again. And Clamp is going to end us on the first attempt. So it's pretty clear that our special stat is still too weak to get through here, but let's just start using some rare candies and see if we can get a better range. I'm going to get up to level 55 here to go back into the Lorelei fight. Let's just see how that works. So now at level 55, we're actually one level higher than this Dugong. A critical hit Bubble Beam still took us down like 75% of our HP almost. That was ridiculous. Here we get a nice critical hit on the Cloister, but it doesn't matter. We go down the next turn. We definitely need to not get a critical hit Bubble Beam or Aurora Beam from the first Pokemon. This time we get Takedown instead and critical hit one-shot it. So now on to Cloister, where Clamp is still doing massive damage, and there's just nothing that we can do against that move. So that is clearly not working at this level. We may need to go all the way up to level 60 here. And I'm also going to actually add on Thunderbolt here. I'm not sure it's a good move by any means, but keep in mind Cloister does have really good defense and slightly weaker specials, so maybe Thunderbolt does something? Let's find out. So at this level, we can one-shot Dugong with a Hyper Beam. The Cloister still does massive damage against us, but we paralyze it with a Thunderbolt, and we can just knock it out the next turn. That's very nice. Out next comes the Slowbro. Of course, it has higher defense than special, so I decided to just go ahead and try to use Thunderbolt to see what it would do. It did close to half. A Hyper Beam on the next turn probably knocks it out. Let's try this again though. So this time we get back to Slowbro with a little more health, and we are at a higher level than it. It uses Amnesia. We get to just knock it out the next turn with Hyper Beam. I think we just go Body Slam on Jinx. Like, what's it gonna do against us? We easily get through, and finally we've made it to the Lapras, where I'm gonna Body Slam this Pokemon. We were actually faster. It Body Slammed us back, but now Hyper Beam, oh, does not quite end it. Here we'll do a Thunderbolt and just finish it just like that. We get through Lorelei at level 60, but clearly that's not perfectly consistent. It is the 0 DVs Rhydon that we're running here, but still not exactly what I was hoping for. Now let's try Bruno though. Let's see if we get a little redemption. So first up, we've got Bruno's Onix, where we're just going to go Earthquake. He uses an X Defend, which is actually good strategy here, but he's going to go down in 2 hits because he used 2 of them. Good job. Out next is Hitmonchan. I'm going to try to Hyper Beam this Pokemon. We get an easy 1-hit KO. We'll do the same here on Hitmonlee because it's kind of scary, and we get another 1-hitter. Out next comes the Onix. We will go back to the Earthquake as it used Screech on us, And now Machamp, we're hoping not to get hit by submission. We paralyze it. We were actually faster than Machamp, and now we just knock it out on the next turn. So as usual, Bruno, he should be good against a normal type Pokemon. He's not good against a normal type Pokemon. He's not good against anything. So now it's time for Agatha. Let's see if we can keep sweeping Elite Four members now with Earthquake. Let's find out. So of course she leads off with Gengar. We're going straight for Earthquake. She swaps. Oh, that was actually good strategy. Here though, Hyper Beam one-shots the Golbat. I misclicked and used Thunderbolt here, but we paralyzed the Gengar, so we get to knock it out the next turn with Earthquake. Haunter comes out. We're gonna go Earthquake here. We are immune to Lick because we're normal types, so that was just a wasted turn by her. We're going to go back to Earthquake for the Arbok. Acid didn't do that much. And finally, Gengar confuses us, but we use Earthquake and we get the easy one-hit KO as we get to level 62. So once again, no problems getting through that fight. We are on to Lance. So now for Lance, I think the best strategy is actually to forget Thunderbolt. I don't think we need that move anymore. Instead, I'm going to teach Blizzard. Blizzard is going to be 4 times super effective on the Aerodactyl, which we can't do any other good moves against. And it's going to be super effective against that Dragonite. So I think it's a pretty good play. Everything else, I think we're going to go Body Slam or Hyper Beam just because we don't have any like good type advantages there. I think Blizzard's only good when it's 4 times super effective, but let's find out. So first up is Gyarados, of course. We are going to Body Slam this Pokemon. The Hydro Pump did massive damage, but the Body Slam took it down below half health. Out next comes the first of his 2 Dragonairs. We're going to Hyper Beam it, and that is an easy one-hitter. Hyper Beam on the second Dragonair as Bubble Beam didn't do that much. Aerodactyl's out next. It goes Fly, and we get knocked out by a critical hit. I'm not sure if the crit mattered there, but let's try this one again. We'll also make sure that we go in on full health this time, and let's see if that makes any difference. So for the first Gyarados, Hydro Pump is always going to do massive damage. There's not much we can do about that. We're kind of hoping for like Leer or something from that Pokemon. So we go down on the second attempt because we simply didn't have enough HP after that Hydro Pump. So this time we did get Leer, which is just what we wanted, but it is going to affect us a little bit as we go through this. We've gotten back to the Aerodactyl, but we're going to be on low health. Unless it misses Fly, there's nothing we can do. We simply go down. This time we managed to get through the Gyarados on full health, so we're just easily making our way through the Dragonairs. Again, we did get a Leer, but now we get a wing attack from Aerodactyl and we one-shot it with a critical hit Blizzard. And now we get hit by Blizzard. We hit Blizzard back on the Dragonite, but then it misses Thunder and we hit the second Blizzard, allowing us to win at level 62. That is stupid and ridiculous and overly lucky, and I will take it. We're on to the champion with Rylax. We have taken 49 resets and 20 optional battles to get here with 8 TMs added, but we are technically to the end of the game, so let's see how this actually goes. So here against the champion, we are going to Body Slam his Sand Slash. It did nearly half, and we're going to Hyper Beam him down the next turn. Out comes Alakazam. It goes Kinesis. We go Hyper Beam. Easy victory right there as we get to level 63. We're going for Hyper Beam on Exeggutor, but it put us to sleep, and we've got to wake up so that we can try to Hyper Beam this one down. We get a Leech Seed, which is not what we wanted to see, but Hyper Beam does the job there. Now Swift from Magneton doesn't really matter, but we missed with Earthquake, so we didn't knock it out. The Leech Seed was the big issue there though, so I think if we can just manage to hit that first Hyper Beam on the Exeggutor, we're probably good. This time we get Earthquake from Sand Slash, followed by a Poison Sting that poisons us. We get Psybeam from Alakazam, which was terrible, but we do manage to get through there. Hyper Beam does not quite get the range on the Exeggutor, and we end up getting leech seeded anyway. So we do knock that one out, but we're basically dead on Magneton again. So it's clearly just because of the Kinesis that we were able to one-shot the Exeggutor with Hyper Beam, so I think Body Slam is the play there. Once again, we get Kinesis from Alakazam though, and then it goes Psychic. So now at this point, there's nothing to do but go for the Hyper Beam and hope that it hits. We just still miss the range, but Body Slam does knock Exeggutor out the next turn because it missed the Hypnosis. We get Screech from the Magneton, so we can knock that Pokemon out. Here against Cloysters, where I'm a little bit nervous, it goes for Clamp, and that's probably all she wrote. Yes, we lose that attempt. So this time we get through to the Magneton on green health. We basically just went Body Slam on everything. We one-shot there. Cloyster's gonna be faster, and Aurora Beam critical hits to knock us out. We didn't even get a chance to see the range on this Pokemon. Come on. Now, as much as I am griping, at this point, we're definitely doing a lot better than a rock ground Rhydon, because we would be getting Earthquaked right here every turn by the Sandslash, and then we would be getting hit with super effective moves a lot more. Still, it's just the incredibly abysmal special stat of this Pokemon that is completely destroying us, and there's nothing we can do about it. So back to Cloyster again on green health, but paralyzed. It goes Aurora Beam. We get to use the Body Slam. A Hyper Beam from here will knock this one out. It gets a critical hit with Spike Cannon, but then we survive. We made it to the Flareon. It goes Reflect. It misses Fire Spin. It goes Reflect again. We just couldn't move at all because of paralysis. Of course, with Reflect, I think it might have survived against the Earthquake, but man, oh man, that was super close. This time we paralyze Cloyster with a Body Slam. Hyper Beam knocks it out onto Flareon, and of course it flamethrowers and kills us. So I'm going to give this 2 more attempts before we go back and grind some levels, because this is close but not quite going. Granted, if we only get moves like Poison Sting, we might be able to make this work. Kinesis there, so once again, good health to the Exeggutor. Nice critical hit Body Slam, so we didn't get any Leech Seed. We get a Screech. That shouldn't matter. Nothing should want to use physical moves against us. I guess we can get them from Spike Cannon, but it's not that strong. But we get knocked out due to the Screech. So I think it's time to just blackout and go back through the Elite Four. I think this is our only shot. And it's worth noting, it's not like we're in a guaranteed win here against Lorelei. So even at this level, it's not like any of this is perfectly consistent. The exception, of course, is Bruno, because Bruno can't beat anything. It turns out here at level 67, Aerodactyl was not a one-hitter, so we knocked it out with a Body Slam, but we are getting through this fight reasonably well. He misses Thunder with Dragonite, and we just one-shot it with Blizzard. So at level 67, that fight against Lance is actually pretty consistent, as long as we get that Leer from the first Gyarados, because that actually allowed us to outspeed both of the Dragonairs there. So now several levels higher, let's get back into the champion fight. Let's see if we can win now. So now at level 68, after leveling up on the Alakazam, we one-shot the Exeggutor with a Hyper Beam. Magneton goes Thunderbolt though and ends us. Still, I think we got a chance here. As long as we can always one-shot that Exeggutor, we should be able to get through this. This time we get back to the Cloyster on green health. It misses Clamp turn 1, goes Ice Beam and ends us though. We just could not stand up to that critical hit. So at this point, it's still not looking consistent enough. We get knocked out by Magneton or Cloyster basically every time. So it's back to the beginning again. So now back at level 70, let's see if we can win now. We're to the Magneton on basically full health here. We took 1 Poison Sting from the first Sandslash. We one-shot that Pokemon, but we get paralyzed. Onto Cloyster, it goes Spike Cannon here. We're going to hit it with a couple of our Body Slams, and that's enough to take it down. So we're to the Flareon on green health. Flamethrower does a lot, but we Earthquake and one-shot it. So there, finally, it took 2 hours, 13 minutes, and 48 seconds to get through the entire game, and we ended up with 66 resets and 26 optional battles to go together with 8 TMs to get that to go. So was this Pokemon good? No, it wasn't. That being said, it is significantly better than a normal Rhydon. You gotta understand, at the end of the game there, we would have been getting one-shot by all of Lorelei's Pokemon. Lance's Gyarados would only want to use Hydro Pump against us over and over again, plus he's got 2 more Pokemon that know moves like Ice Beam and Blizzard. And then against the champion, we would be getting Earthquake 100% of the time by the Sandslash. We would be getting Ice Beam and Clamp 100% of the time from the Cloyster, meaning we couldn't even get that Spike Cannon range. So we would be getting completely wrecked. But we still see that a Pokemon with this low of special really isn't that good as a normal type. When you compare it to the fact that I did the normal type Gengar, and that Pokemon easily beat the game on minimum battles in about half of the time, that tells you all that you need to know about how bad this Pokemon was. Still, we managed to beat the game, and it makes me wonder how DVs affected this one. So let's get into it and find out. So we're going to run on the exact same settings. I'm going to keep animations on, all that. That's my style, guys. But this time we are running Max Don, a Rhydon that has been given the normal typing, but is with Max DVs. So we went from 0 DVs in the first run to Max DVs here, and it's just kind of interesting to me to see how much of a difference this makes. We've already seen that Max DVs makes the Brock fight possible on minimum battles when it was impossible without Max DVs. So we're going to start there. We're going to start with the minimum battles on Brock, and we're just going to see how far we can go without adding additional battles. I will take one optional battle to get Body Slam just because I think it's super important for this Pokemon, and just to keep apples to apples, we'll get the extra rare candy on the SSN as well. But outside of that, I'm going to avoid optional battles as much as I possibly can here, because I think outside of those two, none of them really make that much sense. Of course, we will grind a little bit if we need to, but if we come out with anything less than 25 optional battles and 66 resets, we're basically doing good. So first against Brock, of course, we're going to repeat the strategy that we saw earlier, do a tail whip, and then just start stomping on the Geodude, hoping to get flinches. If it never flinches, we will actually lose this fight, but if we can get just a couple flinches, which is pretty common here, we should be able to win. Now, it is worth noting that on 0 DVs at level 8, you are going to be more consistent here than on max DVs at level 6, given the fact that you have a higher level that leads to a damage rounding threshold, doing more damage to each of these opponents. Here this time though, we get buyed immediately from the Onix, which is exactly what we wanted to see, as we'll just set up a bunch of tail whips on it. We just want him to stop actually attacking us for a minute so that we can do all of our setup. Now we can stomp him, and we see we did about a quarter of his health. He uses Screech, misses a tackle. We did not want that critical hit though, so we go down. We probably would have had a chance there if we didn't get critical hits. Gen 1, of course, being the only generation where critical hits are bad after you've lowered your opponent's defense, because it doesn't count these defense drops when you crit. This time still on decent health, we're getting the stomps on him. We just need one more hit, and just like that, so 14 resets and 12 minutes to get through Brock, but we did manage to get through there on minimum battles with this one, so it's significantly worse than simply going and fighting a couple of traders. Even on 0 DVs, you would get through this faster. But the question is, from now, are we going to get better ranges at lower levels? Remember, Brock is basically one of the toughest fights for this Pokemon, just because we don't have any good moves to use there. And we know we're going to cruise through this next section. If we cruise through on 0 DVs, then we're going to cruise through on max DVs. So this part shouldn't really be an issue at all. So this time we're going to ask Billy Boy how we should go through the rest of the game, and he's going to insist that we go and try to fight Misty at this point. We're going to fight the innocent bystander first, but basically we have overall better stats at the same level, so it's just going to be kind of interesting to see how good or bad we do against Misty with this slightly better Rhydon. Now, of course, Billy Boy knows as a Pokemaniac that the difference at level 20 between a 0 DVs Pokemon and a max DVs Pokemon is just 3 points in every stat. But when you consider that our special is below 20, 3 points is going to be more than like 10% increase here. So it could make a meaningful difference, or it might not. not. We might still have to go down to the SSN. Let's find out. So first up against Misty's Staryu, it goes tackle, we stomp, we just missed the one-hit KO range, but it tackles again. Here she tackles with Starmie and then goes water gun, and we beat her just like that at level 20 with no issues. 19 minutes 35 seconds to get through Misty, and we haven't had any resets since Brock. We've added the one water gun TM. Not sure we need to add bubble beam at this point. We'll just keep it in the bag. Let's go down to the SSN. Let's get body slam and the extra rare candy down there, but I don't really think we need anything else. We should also think about learning dig though, since that was on our moveset before. I'm actually going to learn dig over tail whip. We'd never really used tail whip in the last run, so it was just kind of a wasted move slot. Here we'll at least keep one kind of special move on the side just in case. I don't think it makes a huge difference though. The biggest difference I think it's going to make is I'm probably going to carry Rock Slide and Earthquake on my moveset for most of the run. So we're basically going to be running just like a Rhydon. And in spite of all the time loss on the Brock section, I think we're making up that time pretty nicely here. So here against Lieutenant Surge, of course, I'm just going to go for the dig. And this time we still don't quite get the one hitter. He goes for a Thunderbolt and one-shots us with a crit. So we actually lost to the Trash Man for once, but I think it was only because of the crit that he managed to win. This time he goes Growl and we just knock him out the next turn. So 23 minutes 18 seconds to get through that one. So while it took us about 5 extra minutes to get through Brock, we're only about a minute behind where we were with the previous Rhydon run through Lieutenant Surge. Now, once again, I am going to save Thunderbolt for the late game. I don't really think there's a lot of spots where we need it. I guess the one exception to that could be against the Rivals Cloisters, where we might actually want that move. But outside of that, it doesn't really do that much for us in this section of the game. Now, since we know that we still have pretty low special and probably aren't going to do great against Erika, let's go ahead and just go into the Rocket Hideout first to gain some extra levels, and we'll go and take on Rival 4 in the Pokemon Tower before we try Erika's gym. We will also get access to Hyper Beam as quickly as possible here rather than putting it off, since we already know that we need a stronger move in a lot of these fights. And now with Hyper Beam available to us, we're simply going to learn this over Stomp. I think this is the best play. We'll keep our other moves as they are and just see if we can manage to get through at this point. So I'm actually going to take one shot at Erika here before I go down to Koga's gym and try the randos in his gym. Let's just see if we can actually win with higher stats here. So first up, of course, is her Tangela. I'm going to try to Hyper Beam this Pokemon and just see the range. We one-shot it. Out next comes the Weepin' Bell. It goes for Razor Leaf, which does massive damage, but we knock it out the next turn. We get to level 31, outspeed Gloom, and easily win on the first attempt. 42 minutes and 53 seconds to get through the 4th gym. So now nearly 17 minutes faster than the previous run, thanks to the fact that we have just higher stats at similar levels, and we didn't have to take any more optional battles, just the 2 to get the items on the SSN. We're basically good to go at this point. So now let's go see how we do against Koga. We are certainly faster than we were last time, but I'm not sure we're fast enough to make a difference in this fight. So of course we know the Koga fight's going to be a little bit tough. We get Psychic turn 1, but we survive easily and knock out the first Venonat. Psychic from the second Venonat does a lot more though. We knock it out and get to level 33 just to get Psychic down by the third Venonat. Still, that's a pretty bad range to get Psychic from all 3 Venonats. So let's see if we can get a slightly better one. We do manage to get to the Venomoth a couple attempts later, but it just knocks us out with Psychic, so we're still having trouble in this fight, even on Max DVs. Now, the obvious solution would be to slam a whole bunch of calciums here, but I'm going to just reset on this because if he does things like that with X attacks and weaker moves like Psybeam, we may finally be able to get a run where we get through this. This time we survive the Venomoth's first Psychic with a special drop, but then it goes Leech Life and knocks us out. If he just got paralyzed or went X attack there, we would have won. This time we get a Leech Life and then he gets paralyzed, so we just Hyper Beam him down. 7 resets there to get through Koga, but 47 minutes and 46 seconds with no additional battles taken. So now I think with the additional speed, we can at least think about going and fighting against our rival. Let's just see how we do there. Otherwise, we got to think about Blaine. Blaine's obviously going to be really inconsistent. He does give a badge boost in special, but I'm just not sure it's going to be good enough to get through at this level. So instead, let's check the ranges here. We get Poison Sting turn 1 from the Sand Slash. and then a sand attack, and we're poisoned here. We do manage to get through that first Pokemon though. I'm gonna go Thunderbolt on Cloyster just to see the range, and now it goes Clamp on me with poison. This is absolutely what we did not want to see. We're simply gonna lose that fight. Still, let's see if we can get a better range. Let's try this a couple more times. This time we get to Magneton still on green health. It Thunder Shocks us. We don't quite get the one hitter with Dig, but we knock it out the next turn. Kadabra goes Confusion though, gets the critical hit and one-shots us. This time we do get through Kadabra though, because it just would recover and disable. We've made it to the Flareon. We dig, and it's a one-hit KO. So it took 8 resets there to get through the rival, but we did manage to get it to go without optional battles. So it's a kind of small victory that we can move on without having to fight more fights. Obviously, you'd be much more consistent if you did take additional battles, but hey, we'll take this small kind of victory as we go through the rest of this Silph section. And it's just really because we know the alternative, going to fight Blaine, just doesn't really work for this Pokemon, so I'd rather just grind out this fight for a little bit just to see if we could get it to go. Turns out you can, it's just not. Now with that being said, our special stat is currently the same as it was when we beat Blaine last time. Our other stats are lower because we're 8 levels lower than when we actually beat Blaine in the previous run, but it makes me think that maybe, just maybe, we have a chance here because we're going to be at least just as survivable against Blaine's moves. Of course, there's only one way to find out, so let's get into this gym. So first up, of course, he has his Ninetales. I'm going to go Body Slam on this Pokemon, hoping to paralyze it, and then we'll follow up with an Earthquake if we can manage the hit. So we get to level 37 here. Rapidash misses Fire Spin, so we're going to go the same Body Slam into Earthquake to take that one down. Now we get Takedown from the Arcanine. Then he goes Reflect. I'm trying to paralyze him here, and Takedown just is a little too much for us. Now I realize we didn't fight against Sabrina yet, so I'm going to actually go fight Sabrina now because she should be an easier fight than this, and we can just use the extra level up to, I think, get slightly better stats, and that might be enough. Really, it's going to come down to how many fire moves we get hit by there, though, of course, relative to the normal moves. We like normal moves because we have really high defense. We don't like anything special because we have much lower special. So here, let's try Sabrina. Let's just see if we can get an extra level and if it makes any impact. Now, I expect Sabrina to be random. If she flashes us, we'll be kind of happy, but kind of sad because it will give us a badge boost and attack, but then we might miss more. Instead, she misses the flash, so we didn't even get it, but we still one-shot the first 2 Pokemon. Out comes Alakazam, it goes Psywave, we paralyze it, and then we win on the next turn. So once again, Sabrina, she's nothing to really worry about. 59 minutes, 46 seconds to get through that fight. So still about 20 minutes ahead of our previous time, and we can go back to Blaine now just a little bit stronger. We should still level up somewhere in the Blaine fight as well, so in theory at least, we should be able to get the range where we can get this to go. So this time we get to level 38 as we get back to Arcanine, only to be flamethrowered down. But still, if we get the right range there, I think this one might actually go. This time we get a critical hit Body Slam on Arcanine, even though it used Reflect. Let's see what Earthquake does. We need one more hit, but he goes Reflect, so there we go. Level 38, we managed to beat Blaine in 1 hour, 3 minutes, and 34 seconds. We are up to 40 resets at this point, but 1 hour and 3 minutes and 34 seconds is nearly 27 minutes faster than the previous run. And just like that, we can make our way to Giovanni, where we had a little bit of trouble last time, but let's just see how this fight actually goes in this one with slightly higher stats yet again, because our lowest stats, the ones like special and speed, are actually outperforming here just due to the fact that we get a lot more in those stats from having Max DVs. Our attack and defense, on the other hand, are actually lower than they were before because we have just lower levels. So of course, against Giovanni's Doug Trio, we're just hoping not to take too much damage as we Hyper Beam it down. Persian is more of the same, we just have to land the Hyper Beam, but this one is not a one-hit KO. Ooh, that is terrible. Now we level up to level 40, we would be able to learn Fury Attack. Of course, we're not going to learn that move, but then we immediately get knocked out by Nidoqueen. So the lower attack stat, given that we haven't taken optional battles to level up, is affecting things here due to the fact that we don't deal as much damage with our hyper beams. That could have been a range on the Persian though, so I'll try it again here. Nope, we still don't manage to one-shot. And then we just simply get destroyed by the Nidoqueen yet again. So this time we get a really good range on the Persian, so we get through to the Nidoqueen on full health. And let's just hope for a guard spec here. There we can get the range with a body slam followed by a hyper beam. He guard specs on Nidoking. He's gonna go ahead and double kick us the next turn, but we do knock that Pokemon out. Now Earthquake on his Rhydon does only about a third. So we need a good range here. He goes for Rock Slide though and ends us. If he had instead gone for the move Horn Drill or Fury Attack, I think we would have gotten through there though. We finally get a run where he goes Horn Drill though. It's taken 9 attempts, but we are able to beat Giovanni on minimum battles effectively. I mean, just 2 over due to the fact that we fought 2 optional trainers. But still only an hour and 9 minutes, hour and 10 minutes to get through that fight, and we're on to the league. With all of the rare candies still in the bag, so we can start using them once we manage to get there. So now, of course, it's just time for rival number 6. We beat him on the first attempt last time, but let's see how he goes here. We knock out the Sand Slash. We are going to one-shot the Execute. We're going to go Thunderbolt here on the Cloyster, especially because it went Withdraw. Clamp is still the worst move. We really just don't want to see Clamp at all from this Pokemon. Still, we get through. We get to the Magneton that doesn't really do anything. Earthquake is not a one-hitter here, though. Out next is Kadabra. It goes Reflect, but I'm just going to Hyper Beam it down. Finally, Flareon goes for the Flamethrower, so we actually lose the first attempt. Back to the Flareon with slightly better health this time. It goes Smog instead, and that allows us to get the one-hitter. So it took 4 attempts there, but we did manage to beat the rival. So we've got 51 resets up to this point, and for some reason my 2 optional battles popped off of the list there. We will get that fixed at some point. But still, we're pretty much running similar to how we were with the 0 DVs Rhydon, just we've taken no optional battles to this point. So are we stronger? Yes, absolutely. And I think if we used vitamins, which I never use in my runs, we'd probably be even better off. Like we could just slam a bunch of vitamins into speed and into special, basically. So we'd just be worried about Carbos and calcium to start with. And we'd probably be a lot more survivable in a lot of these situations. And then once we had calcium and Carbos good to go, then we could think about protein. I think I would do them in that order. I think I would get my special and speed up first, and then worry about raising my attack stat, just because really we're doing good enough damage as we are. It's the survivability that's the issue. And there are a lot of spots where if we had, 3-4 extra points in those stats, we might be outspeeding, or we might be, slightly better off in a fight where we get a slightly better range, even when our opponents use the moves we don't want them to use. So I think that would be the way that I would go personally. I don't know. Tell me what you guys think. Which way would you go with the vitamins? All in on attack, or focused more on getting speed or getting more special? Anyway, we are back now to the league. So let's just see if we can find a way through Lorelei. Are we going to have to use a bunch of rare candies here? I'm not really sure. I'm going to buy all of the full restores that I can just in case, because we may end up grinding here. But for now, we're simply going to put all of the other Pokemon in the PC and see if we can manage to win. So first up, of course, is Lorelei. We're gonna go Body Slam here. She went for Rest turn 1. Let's see if Hyper Beam knocks this one out. It does. Out next is the Cloyster. I'm gonna go for the Thunderbolt as it goes Spike Cannon on me. This, with a critical hit, makes it look like it's gonna be a 2-hitter. Ice Beam did a lot of damage though, and we missed the Hyper Beam after that. So that definitely was not what we wanted to see. And here we're just gonna get knocked out by the Slowbro. Let's try this one again though. So we do get through Slowbro that time. We get to Jinx and get put to sleep, and that's all she wrote. So this time we have a much better range getting to the Slowbro. Psychic still does massive damage though, and we're gonna have to get the ranges to knock this one out. We just missed the range there as she uses a ton of withdraws. We just couldn't knock her out. So it's pretty clear that this isn't going at this level, so we probably do need to start thinking about rare candies. So here I'm going to try getting to level 48, and let's just see what that does to our ranges. For one thing, it turns Dugong into a 2-hit KO with Body Slam. We can also get a 2-hit KO range on the Cloyster now. We get through the Slowbro still on full health. Jinx goes Thrash, which doesn't mean anything. We easily knock it out. Lapras goes for the Hydro Pump and Blizzard, and that's just what we didn't want to see. If we managed to paralyze it, we might have had a shot there. This time we managed to paralyze Lapras though after a Body Slam, and we knock it out on the next turn with Hyper Beam, getting to level 49. So 12 resets there on Lorelei. Not great. We're up to 62 at this point, but we're at a lower level, and yet again, still haven't taken optional battles here outside of the ones that we needed in the SSN. Now my entire overlay has frozen. I can't actually edit that here. Normally I would edit those back in. It's just not working, guys. So just, count half a point off of this. And that's where we're actually at in my scoring system. Anyway, time for Bruno. Let's just beat him up. So of course his Onix, he's gonna X defend, which is the right play. Smart move, Bruno. But we're still going to beat him. I'm sure of it. Bruno is still Bruno. Here, Hitmonchan, we can even go Hyper Beam here, though it survives after getting the X defend. That was terrible. Now he goes double team with Hitmonlee though, and we easily knock it out. Onix can screech us all he wants. We're still going to manage to get a nice 2-hit KO there. And finally the Machamp, let's Body Slam it, and now let's give it a Hyper Beam, and we get the easy victory on Bruno as we get to level 50. So Bruno, yeah, Max DVs, 0 DVs, optional battles, no optional battles, never matters. But now we're coming into Agatha at level 50. Let's see how this goes at this current level. So first up against the Gengar, we're just going to go Earthquake. Obviously we're slower than this Pokemon and it can substitute, and she changes to Golbat. So we will Hyper Beam that Pokemon and get a nice easy 1-hit KO. Gengar confuses us now, which is kind of terrible, but we do manage to hit Earthquake next and knock it out. Earthquake is enough for the Haunter. We're going to Earthquake the Arbok. And now the final Gengar goes Psychic and we get wrecked. That is the first time in these 2 runs that I've actually lost to Agatha. And if she doesn't go Psychic there, if she goes basically anything else, I think we win. So let's try this one again. The Mega Drain, fortunately, since we're not Rock Ground type, doesn't do that much. She goes Toxic this time with the Golbat, but honestly, if we just hit all of our moves, it shouldn't matter. And it just keeps us from being put to sleep, so we can just let Earthquake do its thing. Here we get Psychic again, but we survive from the Gengar, and we one-shot it with Earthquake. Even without the same type attack bonus, doesn't matter. We easily win that fight. So now we can simply heal up, and let's make our way to Lancey Boy, where we know that we want Blizzard here. We've already kind of explored this, so I'm just gonna slap this move on. We're gonna forget Thunderbolt. Who needs it? Trash move, guys. Come on. We're at 63 resets so far, so we need 6 more to be on a perfect number. Let's just see if we can get it to go. So here, of course, we are slower than the Dragonairs. We kind of like a Leer. Yep, thank you. So we paralyzed the Gyarados and we got the Leer we wanted. So we're in a speed tie currently with these Dragonairs. We're going to be able to one-shot them with Hyper Beam, so we easily get through there. Aerodactyl is out next. I'm actually going to try to paralyze this Pokemon. We do manage the paralysis, now Blizzard, and we knock that one out. Out comes the Dragonite. Let's see what Blizzard does. Oh, it was faster than us, so we didn't get to check the range. Let's try this one again. So the one thing that I can say for sure is that we're just being outsped here too much. So we should at least gain 1 level so that if we do get a Leer, we can outspeed. But I'm actually just going to go all in on the rare candies at this point because I just want to see if it's possible to get through. So that's going to get us to level 56 here. So 1 Leer will absolutely have us outspeed the Dragonairs, and at least we're getting decently good special and speed, so let's just see. So here we get the Leer, so we're going to be able to outspeed those Dragonairs yet again. So we'll simply go Hyper Beam there, Hyper Beam there. Out comes Aerodactyl next. It goes Hyper Beam on us. We managed to paralyze it, Blizzard, and now we are slower than this Dragonite as it Hyper Beams us down. Still, we're getting kind of close. We might be able to get this. So this time I managed to get Gyarados to Leer me 3 times, and with that I can basically one-shot it. I can body slam both of the Dragonairs. We're still going to be slower than Aerodactyl, but it gets a critical hit and then paralyzes us, so we can just use Blizzard here. And now we get to the final Dragonite, but we're faster, and Blizzard one-shots it. So basically, the reason I reset so many times there, we're up to 76 resets now, is just because I was trying to get that run where I would get 3 Leers. If you get 3 Leers, as long as Aerodactyl doesn't knock you out, you're basically guaranteed to win due to the badge boost glitch. But now the question is, can we find a way through the champion with our current moveset? One way or another, it's going to be pretty tough, I think, but I'm going to try it at least a few good times before we grind any optional battles here. We're here at only level 56. Remember, we were at level 70 when we beat him last time with a 0 DVs Rhydon. So 14 levels better. Let's see if it matters. Now we are able to 2-shot the Sand Slash there. I'm just going to go Hyper Beam on the Alakazam, of course. We get the easy one-hitter. Now we've got to decide what to do against Exeggutor. We could go Blizzard. We could go Earthquake. Let's try the Blizzard just to see, because obviously if we get a freeze here, we get a free win. It's not quite a 3-hitter on this Pokemon. So we get Leech Seeded here. That's probably just what it is. Still, we knock it out on the next turn. Magneton goes for Screech, so we get a nice range there. Spike Cannon, critical hit from the Cloyster, but we get a be in a speed tie, so we nearly one-shot it. If not for the Leech Seed, we probably would have gotten through that Pokemon. Let's try this again. Get another good range to Exeggutor. I go Body Slam, Hyper Beam, just to make sure we get the KO. We're going Earthquake on Magneton, but Thunderbolt just did way too much damage with the crit. We need to avoid critical hits from Magneton and Cloyster and not get a Flamethrower from the final Flareon. This time we get paralyzed instead by the Magneton, so we do get through. Cloyster once again goes for Spike Cannon, but the Ice Beam is too much. This time we missed a Hyper Beam on Exeggutor, causing us to get Leech Seeded, but we got a Screech, so now we're in a speed tie against this Cloyster. It goes Aurora Beam. I use Body Slam. I'm going to Body Slam it again here. Another Aurora Beam unfortunately just knocks us out with a crit, but that was about as close as we're going to get. The Screech could be a really big factor here. This time again we get the Screech, but we're poisoned. We outspeed and paralyze the Cloyster. It goes for Clamp, but then is fully paralyzed, and Hyper Beam knocks it out. We make it to the Flareon, where we outspeed, and Earthquake ends it, allowing us to win without any additional optional battles in an hour 43:42. So all in all, 30 minutes faster than our previous run with a 0 DVs Rhydon, and we did end up with more resets. 93 in exchange for not having like 25 optional battles here. That's up to you how you feel about that. For me, I prefer the minimum battles route as much as possible, so anytime that I can avoid optional battles by just doing some resetting for kind of reasonable situations, like I like to see where if I just get one badge boost from my opponent, it can help me win a fight, for example. In this case, it works. But really, if you wanted to make this Rhydon a little bit better, you'd simply slap on a Carbos as many times as you could earlier in the game. When you get to Celadon, just buy as many Carbos as you can get it to take, and that little extra incremental speed will probably help you out. And if you take logical optional battles outside of that, you're probably going to be pretty darn good. So now as our rival questions why he lost, we'll tell him it's because you did make a mistake. You didn't save the game just before this battle and reset until you got the luck you needed. But clearly, Rhydon suffers a lot from its low special stat and its low speed. And even with theoretically a much better typing, at least in terms of getting rid of type weaknesses, it just doesn't come out to be that much better in a full game solo run when you're running anything close to minimum battles. The only way you get this Pokemon to be really good in a solo run is by grinding a lot of levels with it. There are a lot of logical spots where you could gain levels with this Pokemon, whether you're talking about the rock ground Rhydon or this normal Rhydon here, but you're really focused on getting to the point where you can one-shot opponents. So I just realized this is not a ROM that has the Professor Oak fight in it, so I'm going to go ahead and fight against Mewtwo instead. Let's go at least try to get some redemption with this legendary Rhydon maxed on and see how bad our special stat is when we just repeatedly get hit by Psychic from a Mewtwo. And that's really my critique of these speed-based solo challenges, is that when you're running on Max DVs and then you're just leveling up until you one-shot everything, sure, you're going to get good times with Pokemon like this because they don't need that many additional levels to basically be in one-hit KO ranges on things. And once you optimize vitamins, you're probably going to outspeed a lot of opponents that I wasn't outspeeding here, but that kind of oversells the Pokemon pretty massively. When you take away this Pokemon's DVs and make it play even just with a normal typing, no type weaknesses, it's bad. It's really, really bad. In spite of having the 13th best stats in the entire game, you're going to be struggling for quite a while if you don't go and grind a bunch of levels. Anyway, that's my word on it. Let's go ahead and fight this Mewtwo and see how he goes. So here, obviously, the play, we get Psychic, and we're almost dead. A second Psychic guarantees that we're dead. I was going for the Body Slam into Hyper Beam strat that would, I think, two-shot this Pokemon, but let's see if we can actually get it, and he barriers. No, not barrier. And we basically never crit, so we're never going to get any decent damage now as he's set up all the barriers. Let's see if Hyper Beam can end it. No. He recovers. So I guess we Blizzard and just hope that we can knock this Pokemon out. And instead he Psychics and we die. So there's pretty clearly only one strategy that works here. We don't want to paralyze him. We want to freeze him because that's the only way I think we're getting through. Because the one thing that we will not do is thaw him out. Still, we use all the blizzards. We do not manage to get the freeze. So I guess we're just hoping for a critical hit. We actually manage a crit there, only to get knocked out on the next turn. So we do over half with the Hyper Beam when it hits. And if we could just critical hit him once with a Hyper Beam, that will actually be enough to end this one. But the freeze is a higher percentage chance, which, by the way, there was a version of the game in Japan where Blizzard had like a 30% freeze chance. We need to try that version. Green version coming up sometime soon. And here, after 10 attempts, we finally managed to get the freeze. And with that, we know that we're gonna just Hyper Beam this one down. Let's finish it with a Body Slam. And just like that, we have defeated Mewtwo with Max Don, who randomly got a capital A in his name. But we did beat the game, level 58 in the end. Man, oh man, oh man. The speed and special, they were the issue. And even then, Max DVs helped a lot. Don't get me wrong. Max DVs helped a lot. The normal type helped this Pokemon a lot. We just couldn't really tell because it was still getting one or two shot by basically every special attacker in the late game. And it just goes to show that types aren't everything. Stats are still kind of important. Still, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. We may have to do some of these runs again with vitamins and like trying to actually optimize things, because honestly, I get the feeling that this Rhydon with the normal type isn't actually that far off of being really, really overpowered. But that does it for this one. I hope you guys enjoy. I'll see you in the next one. Later.